we have children and we want to be parents, but then it's so busy and we're so tired and we're just trying to keep up. And you said we're surviving parenthood, right? And that I think so many of you listeners out there, I know you're feeling that way too. Like I know so many of our listeners feel that way, that they're just surviving. They haven't maybe even had a chance to stop, or maybe today is that chance to stop and start to go, what is the purpose of this? Like, why are we doing this? And what do we really want? Welcome to Motherhood 2.0, where we're taking motherhood to the next level. I'm Dr. Christina Hibbert, your host, clinical psychologist, speaker, author, and, mom of 6 and mother of the year for Arizona, here to help you overcome, to become, and yes, to flourish as we grow through motherhood together instead of just going through it on our own. Be sure to visit my website, drchristinahibbert.com, as well as join our Facebook group, Motherhood 2.0. All right, everybody, let's get growing. All right, everybody, I am thrilled today to be talking about something that is so important to us, which is skills of parenting, and particularly how can we parent on purpose. And today's guest has written a book called just that, Parent on Purpose. So I want to welcome to the show Amy Carney. Amy, welcome to Motherhood.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I'm so glad you're here. And, Amy and I connected a while back, through social media. Did we find each other online or something?
Yes.
Yeah.
I found you. I was listening to, I think, 30 Seconds.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
Out of Chicago. And then I just loved your work. And then I'm like, wait a minute, she's here in Arizona too. And
right.
Yeah.
I know. So, and then I'm like, I got to get you on the show when you have your book out, and you were writing a book, and we met up at a bloggers conference. So anyway, it's been really fun. And we even got to do a little event a few weeks ago together. So thank you so much for being here today. I'm really excited to share your work with everybody. But first, let me tell everybody a little bit about you. So Amy is a former journalist, and she's currently a writer, and she's been writing about intentional parenting and family life on her blog, which is Amy, A-M-Y, Carney, C-A-R-N-E-Y, amycarney.com. So be sure to check that out. She also has been doing freelance print and online work in her writing as well. And she just finished and authored and published her first book called Parent on Purpose, a courageous approach to raising children in a complicated world. And we're going to be talking about that today. Amy actually started her company, Parent on Purpose, to help other parents just like us, to equip us and empower moms and dads during this, journey of 18 and sometimes plus years of trying to parent on purpose with our kids. And that's what she does through her writing, speaking, and classes and events. And she and her husband of 21 years, Keith, are parents to 17-year-old triplet sons and a 15-year-old daughter, and a newly adopted 12-year-old son. So she has got her hands full too. She's in the thick of it, just like all of us. So I'm so glad you're here, Amy. And oh gosh, what a treat. I'm so happy to talk about your book. So let's just start by talking about this idea of how we can as parents take this perspective of having courage to raise our children differently than maybe everybody else seems to be doing. And I feel like we live in this world of like comparison, especially with social media and all these outlets where we see everybody's every move online all the time. It's really easy to compare, right? So where do we begin as far as when we're trying to parent in the way we want to do and we know is right for our children?
Right. Well, I think that we just have to stop and slow down. And I just found myself, like, from the moment my triplets were born, and then I had another baby 18 months later.
Oh,
I mean, I just was reacting to what happened. Came my way naturally, right? Raising 4 babies at one time just caused me to survive motherhood. And so I just found there was a point, 10 years into the journey, where I just said, what is this? Like, I am not enjoying raising these kids. I'm just reacting to what comes in my way, and I feel stressed and I'm overwhelmed. And so we just came to the point where we were like, what are we doing? We're just racing around and just crazy and chaotic. And we had to just stop and say, what is the purpose of this? Why did we want children in the first place? We have these 4 healthy, beautiful children, and we're not enjoying this. We're just reacting to what comes our way and surviving parenthood. And we knew we needed to make a change, major change. And so we ended up buying an RV and pulling the kids out of school and off all their organized activities. We quit our jobs and we just journeyed around the United States for 7 months.
Wow.
Regrouping, and obviously I don't even know if I recommend that to people, necessarily. But it was something we needed to make a major shift and stop the craziness that was our life and just regroup and think, what are our priorities? And we were not living into our priorities, and what we said was important was not our reality. And so we wanted to live out our values and live out our purpose and live out what we were saying is important. And it's really hard to do in culture today.
That's right. I love that. So you this is your experience. You guys actually did have that courage to totally do something out of the box. I mean, talk about out of the box, literally out of the house that is the box. You're going out and doing this whole adventure. And I think what you said is so important, that we have children and we want to be parents, but then it's so busy and we're so tired and we're just trying to keep up. And you said we're surviving parenthood. Yeah. Right. And that I think so many of you listeners out there, I know you're feeling that way too. Like I know so many of our listeners feel that way, that they're just surviving. They haven't maybe even had a chance to stop, or maybe today is that chance to stop and start to go, what is the purpose of this? Like, why are we doing this? And what do we really want? And you guys did that.
Well, we did that because I saw that the kids are getting older and I'm going to lose all 4 of them in 1 year. I mean, my triplets graduate high school next year. They're going to go. And then my daughter goes the year behind. And so it was like, wait a minute, I don't want to get to the end of this and have regrets and feel guilty and be sad. And unfortunately, I'm seeing this all the time in mothers. I'm seeing them launch their babies, right? They're young adults, and they have so much sadness and regret because they didn't stop and take the time to live into their purpose or enjoy it, right? Enjoy the journey. And so I didn't want that. So we had to make that major change, and it's made all the difference in our family. And that's how the book stems from, that courageous decision to take that trip.
Wow. That's amazing. And what a good example for everybody else. I mean, like you said, you don't necessarily recommend it, and not everybody has to do something so major, but just to be able to, even just today, to hear what you're saying and to stop and go, wait a minute. Am I parenting on purpose? Am I actually doing things the way that I want them to go, and that my kids need them to go, and not just reacting day to day?
Right. Like I was saying, like popular culture was totally writing our story, right? Our family narrative. We were just doing what we thought we had to do, what we were being told to do, what everyone around us was doing. And we decided, you know what, we're going to pick up the pen and write our family story, right? We're going to live out the scenes that are going to create the legacy that we want to live. Yeah, but it's hard to do.
Yeah.
But once you get courageous and start doing that, it's so exciting. And motherhood is now exciting for me.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, because you've created it to be that way.
Right. Well, it's a mindset shift too. It's a perspective.
Right. Because you talk about the idea of like building the perfect resume as a parent versus, like doing it your way. Right. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I just found us getting caught up in, the kids, and once they enter school, you want them in the best school, and then you begin wanting them with the best teachers, and you want them getting the best grades. And all of a sudden all these goals become the worldly success without you even realizing it, right? And it becomes it's a very competitive, performance-driven environment that our kids are growing up in, and we are falling into that trap. But when we stopped and said, is this really what success is for us? It's not, right? And so how can our kids still be involved and do well in school and their activities, but yet it not be the focus of our family story?
Yes, I love that. And get away from that idea of having to be this perfect kind of parent that everybody says is perfect and the way to do it. And instead listening and trusting yourself and your family and what you need.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So let's talk about that idea. You mentioned like this idea of success in parenting. So how can we, I know you talk about needing to redefine that success. So like, where do we begin for those who are feeling like, okay, I think what you're saying, Amy, is true for me. Like, I'm kind of caught in that trap of feeling like I need to keep up with what everybody else is saying I need to do. How do we help people to start to redefine that word success, especially when it comes to parenting?
Well, for one, I took one of my kids and was looking at his life. Like, he's a competitive travel hockey player, right? And so his time is consumed with that sport. And so when I look at a picture of him playing that sport, he looks very successful. He is successful in that. He gets good grades. Everything looks successful about that. But if that's all he is when he leaves my home, is this good hockey player and this good student, is that success to me? And I say no. I mean, that's good for him, but success to me is someone who can go out into the world and contribute and love other people, love God and love other people. That's always been our focus. And so is that hockey player loving God and loving others? Maybe, but there's got to be other ways that I can show him and teach him how to be that person. And so we've begun making a mind shift. So for, say, instead of taking vacation, an entertaining vacation, we've decided to start taking mission trips and take the kids with our, the kids' dentist goes on medical missions to the Yucatan. And so we try and go annually with them and do that trip. And that's now our vacation, right? Because that more meets the goal we want for our children. And it gets really hard because you get caught up thinking, well, he's going to fall behind, right? If he doesn't go to all these hockey camps that everyone else is going to,
right,
he's going to fall behind. And then you say, well, I don't want him to fall behind. And then you say, well, you know what? Forget the mission trip. He needs to do this hockey. And at the end, that's not writing the scenes of the story we want to tell necessarily.
Yeah.
So we always say, so much of our time is devoted to their activities and their sports, but we've got to be able to pull away from that and show them what it is that's really important in life. And we've got to give them opportunities to build the character that we want our children to have.
Absolutely. So important. And I think as we, like you say, we redefine what success in parenting looks like for us and what success in our own lives looks for us, then we help our children to understand it in a new way too, other than what the world is constantly telling them that you have to do to be successful, right?
Right.
Yeah. And so purposefully, you guys are changing that dynamic in your household through vacations, through the activities that you're doing, and, kind of trying to put that meaning into, success is kind of like finding your purpose and meaning in life and doing service and these important things that matter to you.
Right. And I think we have to be careful of the messages that we're sending to. I have to really be mindful of, if I say that straight A's and, all this performance isn't important, I have to be very careful about the messages I'm speaking to them and saying to them in our home too, because, you see them get a lower grade or whatever. And I got to be very mindful about how I approach that and how I talk about it and how we do expect, excellence. I mean, God gave you a healthy brain and a healthy body, and you can work hard, but it's not, straight A's is not the end goal, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just not. And we can get caught up in that, all the kids and us.
That's right. Yeah. So easy to do. So I love the idea of you suggest writing a parent purpose statement to kind of help us to kind of clarify from the beginning what we're trying to do. And this is awesome. I feel like for the brand new parent and the one that's like us, kind of like more in the middle where kids are leaving and some are still home, or even those who are empty nesters and you know what, you need to know how you want to parent on purpose your older children, that are out of the house, right? So tell us about that. Like, what does that involve?
Well, I mean, all companies have a vision statement, a mission statement, right? To hold them accountable to their business. So why do we not do that for our family? Why do we not do that in our parenting? And so on that RV trip is when my husband and I kind of began to get clear on what is it we really want. And it's too hard to do that when you're in the day-to-day and the hustle of the busyness. So we just have to slow down, and it's easier, I think, to start looking at what we don't want, right? Like, it was easier for me to say, I don't want to raise entitled kids. Like, we have an entitlement problem today, I don't want to raise entitled kids. So I started there, right? If we don't want to raise entitled kids, right, then what do we need to do differently? And so that's pretty easy, and you can start aiming. If we want to raise hardworking kids, how do we do that? Right. And so we started with what we don't want. And in my book, I walk through that exercise, and in the back of the book is our parenting purpose statement and what we came up with.
I love that.
And I always say, start general, start big like that. And then we kind of have done them every 6 years, because it's hard to do when you have a infant to really know what you want as an 18-year-old.
Right.
So I say, look 6 years ahead. What that 6-year-old will be going to school, and what do you want for that 6-year-old going to school?
Yes.
And you can break it down smaller. But I just feel like we would never jump. I always say we would never jump in a rowboat in a river and just let the current take you where it might, right? We would paddle ourselves.
Yeah.
We would paddle ourselves to where we want to go. So why do we jump into motherhood, into parenthood, and just let popular culture take us where it wants to go? Like, no, we need to pick up our oars and paddle toward a destination in the best way that we can.
I love that. That is such a good visual for all you visual learners out there to understand, because it's so true. We don't just like go river rafting and sort of just like, oh, okay, whatever. We're just going to float along here and who knows where we'll end up, or if it's safe or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But you're right. I think so. And people joke all the time and say, oh, parenting doesn't come with a manual. And it's true. It just doesn't. So maybe we need to write our own manual, and that's kind of our oars, digging into the water and trying to steer a little bit and figure out actually where we want to go versus just going with the flow.
Right. And it's not about creating an outcome, because I think people think that, right? That we're trying to create an outcome. And that's not at all what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. I don't think parenting on purpose, but it is about creating opportunities and steering them in a direction that you want to lead them. I just think culture is too chaotic. Mm-hmm. It's too crazy, and technology, right? We're distracted. I almost feel like you have to know where you're headed to be able to parent well today.
Yes, that's right. You have to have that vision in order. I say that all the time too, kind of like for anything, and especially with parenting. Like, you have to have that vision of where you want to go in order to get there. Right. You've got to have a map in order to know that you're going to get to the right place, right? So that's kind of what you're talking about with this purpose statement. And also, just this idea of, I think what you just said was really important too. It's not about the outcomes. And, as I've been doing my Mastery of Motherhood, we're doing a Mastery of Motherhood challenge right now. And that's one point I keep trying to drive home, that it's not, again, the fruit of motherhood is not how your kids turn out. It's how we turn out. And the fruit of parenthood is, it is, yes, we want our kids to be great people, but also we want to develop ourselves too and have the kind of life that we want. And you don't always have control over how your kids turn out. So it can't be about the outcomes. It just can't. Right? No. They're going to be who they're going to be, whether we like it or not. And hopefully we like it, but we might not, right?
Exactly. I say the biggest thing is that we need to be the example. We need to live our life out, right, according to our values, living out our values. And then they'll watch us do that and learn more from seeing us live our life than just by listening to what we have to say. So
amen to that. Yes, absolutely.
If they hear us say one thing, but we're living out another, then they learn that, well, you can really say one thing and do another, and you don't really have to live up to what you say.
That's right.
I just think it's really important to really try and walk our talk the best way that we can.
So good. So important. And I really love that, because you were talking about, kind of, first of all, like kind of being true to who we really are and what we really are saying, and not just saying one thing and being a hypocrite and doing the other, which I know we parents have all caught ourselves doing it one time or another, but hopefully we can admit and then just sort of, move on, apologize and move on. But I also loved what you said about creating opportunities. It's not about outcomes. It's about opportunities here and now. And I really like how in the book you've separated the three parts into the lead, love, and launch. So I wanted to just kind of touch on those, because I really think those are really helpful ways to sort of think about, when you're trying to parent on purpose, that these are elements that we need to focus on. So like you said, having that vision and then giving them those opportunities, and then also leading the way. So talk to us a little bit about leading. You do mention visualizing the end, and we've talked a little bit about that, but what are some of the things that have come up as you've written this book and been working on this, as far as how we need to be leaders for our children as parents? Yeah.
Well, I think one of the biggest things that I'm seeing, and I was falling into the trap too of becoming a friend to my child, right? And it's when our child really needs a parent. And so how do we have connection and close relationship without being a friend, right? We still need to lead them. And so I say that, I see it a lot, that kids say, I'll give an example. So our kids, after the RV trip, we decided that we were going to start sending them off to sleepaway summer camp for a period in the summer because that was something that we thought would meet our end goal. Mm-hmm. Well, they were not happy about it. The kids were not like having it. They were not like, what, they weren't happy about it. But we still chose to.
I think after being in an RV for that long, they, you probably did need that summer camp, right?
Oh my gosh. Just different things that getting a job. We expected them to get a job when they turned 15, 16 years old to help pay for the phone and the gas. Well, no, they're not happy about necessarily getting up and being at work at 7 a.m. on a Saturday morning.
Right.
And sometimes we forget that happiness isn't the goal. Like too many times our kids are saying, they're not happy. And then we're afraid to still push through what it is that we're the opportunities that we're trying to create for them to become these people, these stronger adults that we want to send into the world. Yes. And so too many times today, I think when I'm talking about leading the book, I'm talking a lot about that. Like, be the parent, be confident in your decision that, yes, them having a weekend job is for their benefit. You're not doing it to be mean and all of that. And if you ask them if they want to do it, no, they're not going to want to do it. No, there's a lot of things that they're not going to want to do. But we've got to be the parent and the authority figure that knows what's going to be best for them in the long run.
Yes. And
have the courage to say, it's going to be fine. You're going to be fine. And then watch the fruit of that, of pushing them through some discomfort and uncomfortable things that they maybe don't feel like doing.
Right. Then they grow into those human beings that we're hoping they grow into because they've had these challenges, and we let them struggle.
Yes.
I think that's so hard as parents, right? We just want to rescue them. But I loved what you just said about, like, it's not about them being happy all the time. Like, that's not what life's about. I mean, yes, we want to be happy all the time, but we have to grow to that point where,
right.
Like, we have to learn how to do that in our lives. And if we are just coming in and rescuing the kids all the time, they're never having to struggle, instead of letting them kind of honoring their struggle, that's going to help them grow and become the people that they want to be and that we want them to be.
Yeah, and that the world needs them to be.
And the world needs them to be. Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
So true. Absolutely. Yeah. And you're right. And it's not easy. I think this is a tough challenge. I know our listeners probably can relate to this. Definitely. That idea, like you said, even you've struggled. And I have too, where that line of kind of like, okay, am I needing, I don't want to be their friend right now. I need to be their parent still. And how do you kind of do that? And also that feeling I think we all have as parents, that we want to be cool, or we want them to like us, or, when they hate us or when they're mad at us or whatever. It's the worst feeling. But at the same time, it's kind of like, well, if one of them, I've got 6 kids. So if one of them dislikes me at any given moment, I'm probably doing a pretty good job. That's probably pretty good odds. So, it's fine, right? Yeah. We can handle it.
Yeah. Somebody told me that when my kids were young, like, if your kids say, oh, you're so mean, or I don't like you, or whatever, that actually means you're doing a good job. Like,
that's right.
We can't take it to heart. And we know that we're making decisions that we feel are best for them.
Yes. So important. So we can lead them in that way by giving them these opportunities, which, to them probably don't feel like opportunities,
right?
But we know better. They are,
exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Yes. I love that. Okay. And then love, obviously parenting is all about love, and it's so important. But what are a few ideas for those who might be feeling like, okay, I need to love on purpose more, versus like, oh, I love my baby because he's cute, or I love my kids because they're actually doing well right now, or it's sometimes hard to love your kids when they are struggling or pushing back, or moody, hormonal, whatever it might be. So exactly. I mean, obviously we still love them, but how do we love on purpose?
Okay, well, that section is more about as a family. What kind of family culture are we creating, and how do we create the family culture that we want to? So I start that section off talking about the importance of play, and how it's easy when kids are little, right, to play because that's all you do. But as they get older, how can you still play in your family? How can you still have fun? How can you still laugh amidst all the busyness, right? Like, how do we reframe family dinner time as play? Now, my kids have no idea this, right? But in my mind, this is a way for us to have fun and connect and try and gather around the family dinner table. We don't get to have a lot of time as a family with 4 teenagers, and then we adopt with our adopted younger son. We're busy, but I'm very mindful of the importance of play in our lives. I mean, just play in my life. Forget being a mother, right? Just as a woman.
Yes. And this is so important. I want to totally emphasize what you're saying, because gosh, I think especially we moms, we tend to totally minimize the importance of play in our own lives. And we feel like we're playing with the kids because they're little and they want to play Barbies and we get down and play with them or whatever. But that's not necessarily what you're meaning by play. There's so many ways to put that into their lives, and we need to put it into our lives too, because it makes us happier as parents as well. We're going to be better parents when we have that in our lives. And when we're engaging as a family in that way, we're going to have that love flowing so much more easily.
Exactly. So I just talk about the importance of prioritizing play and what that means. It's not getting on the floor and playing games, right? It's a culture. It's our family culture. And that's what was missing in our family. I wrote a story in there about, I didn't even realize that until we were on the RV trip. And one night we were it was somewhere in Indiana, and the kids, it was getting dark, and the kids looked down and they're like, what are those blinking lights? And it was, I looked down, it was all these fireflies, right? And my kids had I grew up with the fireflies in Indiana, but they had never seen them. And so on a night when normally at home, we would have been driving the kids all around, harried and busy, we were outside catching fireflies together, just slowing down and enjoying the beauty of God's creation. And we forget to do that. We look at our kids who are in sports and we think that they're playing, but that's no longer the play that our kids need. That's more like a business.
Yeah, you're right. That is so true. So true. And I love that you said it's like a culture of play, Yeah. And then I talk a lot in that section about getting off technology. I mean, disconnecting to reconnect. And it's really difficult. I think technology is taking over childhood. It's taking over our homes. It's taking over our families. So how can we live with technology and create healthy habits surrounding that in our home? So I talk a lot about that and the importance of our kids learning to be bored and solitude. And I'm so with you on that. I always tell my kids that, like, don't tell me you're bored, because I think it's good that you're bored, because then you have to start to get creative a little bit and use your brain and not just tune out like you do on this electronics, right?
Yep. Jeez. So it's a good thing if they say they're bored. That's another thing. We're doing a good job if they're bored.
That's right, because it is a culture that, like, kids think they're not supposed to ever be bored. They're constantly entertained, and there's so much information, and everything's just like coming at them all the time. And so, and you're right. It not only, who knows what it's doing to their brain. We'll see when they get older, but also there's definitely that lack of connection with kids nowadays. Even with them and their friends, and even like dating's not even a thing anymore. My kids are like, if I ask a girl on a date, then she's going to think that we're going out. So you have to be going out in order to go on a date. I'm like, what do you mean? How are you supposed to get to know people? That makes no sense. Like, how do you know that you want to go out with somebody until you go on a date? So
I know.
Just like this whole culture is so tough because their communication and their connection is so off. And then in the family, of course, that's a big issue too. So I think that's really important. I'm glad you bring that up in the book. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Disconnect to reconnect. I love that.
Yeah, that's huge. And then I just talk about the importance of traditions and rituals in our families, unique traditions. And sometimes those are going by the wayside now because we're so busy. And there's some of the most important things we can be doing throughout childhood.
Right. So again, I think that question that you're bringing up is for everybody listening kind of, okay, so what is really more important? What is the most important thing? What does matter most? Is it more important that we are getting to all the activities, or is it more important that we are building these traditions? Even just something like, family dinners that are kind of going by the wayside, that you talked about. So, and I love that you said that in your mind, that's playtime. I love that. I'm going to think about that when I'm getting the family together, because it's tough. It is hard. And it takes a lot of effort and work, right?
It does.
But
it does. And it doesn't happen. And that's the other thing. You can't beat yourself up because you can't do it all that often. Or maybe you can't do it at nighttime. So you do it at breakfast, or you just change. It doesn't have to be dinner, right? It's just sometime you're gathering as a family on purpose around your table and connecting, because we're so busy. We've got to make sure we're creating relationship and close connection in our homes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So important. Okay. And then the third part, so we had lead and love, and now launch, which is, I know where a lot of listeners are or headed very soon to launching children, which is a whole other world. But really, I mean, yeah, we think about them launching at 18 or whatever, but really that process starts when they're little. Like, you're hopefully trying to prepare them for that all along, right?
Exactly. Yeah. That's what I say. The aim all along is adulthood, and we can't forget that.
Mm-hmm. And that's part of that on purpose piece, right? Just like, we can't forget that that's the goal, is we're trying to get them to be functioning, contributing adults and teach them all that we can while we actually do have them at home. Because it's true. I mean, they do go and they come back and stuff, but it's never the same once they leave home for the first time. And they're also, then they're older, and it's not the same kind of where you have that responsibility in the same way that you do when they're younger, right?
Right.
So we can start now. And so I like how you say, you talk about that's creating space so that we can help children learn the crucial life skills that they need. Mm-hmm. So how do you, as far as your thoughts on that, where do people begin? So if we have mothers that are listening that have really, really little children, or we have moms that are, about ready to launch their first child or their last child or whatever, I mean, they can all begin today, right?
Oh, exactly. Well, I interviewed several Arizona University deans and professors and employers and asked them what they see, with the young adults that are coming onto their campuses and in the workforce. And hands down, every one of them said that they cannot problem solve. Like, young adults can't problem solve today. And it's the biggest problem that they're facing, is because they've had, a loving intention, unintentionally maybe helicopter hovering mother who's helped them all along the way. And then they've got Siri or an app to tell them every move to make. So they've never had to make any decisions for themselves. And I think we have to really look at that. And I had seen that when my kids were young, and I was looking at, the mental health issues on college campuses and everything that's going on. I thought, how can I do differently? How can I lead my children differently so that I can send them onto a college campus confident in making their own decisions? And so that starts young. I mean, if you've got young kids and they are struggling to tie their shoe, well, you come alongside them and teach them and be patient along their struggle, because they'll struggle, right? Mm-hmm. But the problem is we're so busy, we just hurry up and tie the shoe or buy them the Velcro, right? I used to buy the Velcro because I had no time for teaching shoes. But, we've got to stop and think they have to struggle through tying their shoes, to talking to teachers about issues in high school, right? Without us jumping in and being involved. And so I just give different scenarios in the book of, problems will arise. Absolutely. And we've got to stop and realize it's a teaching moment, right? It's a teaching moment. And we've got to let our kids learn and struggle through it. Mm-hmm. And they're not going to solve the problem how we would. Believe me, I mean, we're smart, efficient people, right? And so it's sometimes very hard for me to let my child struggle through something that I could solve immediately.
Yes.
But if I'm solving everything immediately, they are going to be the kid that walks into the dean at college and needs their help or needs them to solve it, because I won't have, given them opportunities to do that in my home.
Yes. So important. And I love that. I love that you interviewed the deans of the university to find out, because gosh, isn't that so true? I'm always talking to my teenagers, especially about like, you guys don't even know how to like make a plan for, like we had to do. We didn't have cell phones. So if we went to the mall with our friends, we had to have a certain time. And if you were not there, your parents were leaving you, So you had to be there. So like, they don't even know how to make a plan. So my son comes in the other day, he's just turned 18. He's a senior. And he's like, oh, can I go to Colorado for spring break? I'm like, I don't know. Like, that's not a plan. Like, I don't know. Can you? Like, with who? Where are you going? How are you paying for this? What do you like? So I'm like, come back to me with an actual plan. Right. So, but you're right. It's a lot easier to jump in and make the plans for them or help them figure things out or solve the problem for them. Or I think the event we were at a few weeks ago together, the one speaker was saying, there's the helicopter moms and there's the lawnmower moms. Mm-hmm. Right? That have to like pave the way and make it all smooth and perfect before the kids come. And that's where we're kind of like, we're cutting down the opportunities for them to build those muscles, to kind of have to overcome those challenges.
Yeah. And I feel like this is crucial. I really do. And I think we all can fall into this, right? Because we are caretakers, we're nurturers, we're loving moms. And so we don't see it in the moment, right? We see it only as love. But if we look to what's going on at college campuses, right? And you see what's going on with the mental health and issues and all of this, then we have to realize that we play a part in that. Like I play a major part in the strength and resilience and grit of the young adult I send into the world. Yeah. We really do. That's I mean, how they choose to, to deal with things when they're on their own is on them, but it is up to me to help them develop their inner strength.
Yes.
Their emotional strength.
You're right. And there's a lot we can do. I mean, there's a lot that's out of our control, but there's just so much that we can do. And I think a lot of times, like you said in the beginning, we are just trying to survive. And so we never stop to make that plan or to think ahead. Like I'm really getting inspired by what you're saying. Like you really have thought ahead as a parent to see, okay, what are they going to have to deal with down the road? And therefore back it up. What do I need to start doing now? What do I need to teach them now? How can I create this culture now? Teach them these skills, whatever it might be.
Right. And then people always say, well, it's too late, right? If you've got an older child, well, it's too late. It's never too late. I say, sit down tonight. Sit down tonight and say, you know what, I think I've done too much. I think I'm doing too much. Or I think, whatever it is. And say, you know what, tomorrow we're going to make a change and it's never too late. Right?
So true and so important. I know there are people out there right here listening right now that needed to hear that.
Oh, that's good. Because I have to remind myself of that. I mean, I still have to remind myself of that. There's my triplets are 17 and a half. So, time is ticking and there's still things that come up and I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I didn't teach you, and then when you have a lot of kids, I forget which kid I taught what, like one of them,
Exactly.
the other night I asked one if he could start boiling the water to make pasta. And he's like, how do I do that? And I'm like, oh shoot. Like I taught the others that, but I forgot
to teach you. I know. Isn't that true? I feel like that with my youngest, like, oh man, I totally forgot that I didn't teach you that. You were a baby when we had that lesson,
Right. But you have to go easy on yourself too. Right.
Yes,
and I just have grace for myself, grace for my children. I want to enjoy this journey because it's ending. It's a short season. Like it's supposed to be 18, 19 years. And, I don't want to rush through it. I don't want to be a stressed mess through it, right? I want to slow down as best I can in the days that I can, and purposely parent them, toward the end.
I love that. So kind of as we're wrapping up here, a question based on what you just said. I know, again, there are listeners out there who are listening right now who are thinking, I don't want to be the stress mess either. I really want to enjoy this. And I'm not right now. Like right now, I feel like I am barely surviving or I'm really underwater or whatever it might be. So what do you suggest as far as just a starting point for this idea of parenting on purpose for those who are feeling like, oh my gosh, I really want to be like Amy. I want to be doing things like you're doing it. I want to be doing things like you mentioned in the book. Obviously, a starting point could be get the book. Hello. But also, but like just today, okay, while they're waiting for the book to come, because we're assuming they bought it online, which everybody does. So while they're waiting for the book to come, what can they do today?
Well, I think just sitting down and like we were talking about that parenting purpose statement, if we just take the time and write down even what's stressing you out today, what isn't working, right? What are the things that are feeling heavy for you? And then start to look at, well, how can I change that? How can, I think a lot of times we're just doing too much and it boils down to that. How can we do less?
Yes.
And what can we hand over to our kids? A lot of times we're serving them so well, we're serving them so much that motherhood becomes a burden to us, and it doesn't need to be like that. So what can you release, right? What can you release to your child that they can be doing for themselves that can make motherhood easier for you? What can you release off your calendar so that you create some margin in your life? But it's hard to do all that if you don't understand your core values and your purpose.
That's right.
And so
for some, that might be a starting point, and some might feel like they understand that better and, can start to release some things. But for some, it might be like, I need to get back in tune with what really matters in my life because I don't even know anymore.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, because motherhood is a season. I mean, it can consume you, and some days, weeks, months are consuming, right? And that's just it's a season. Yeah. Some days, some months are going to just be like that, right? It's a journey. It's a journey, but it shouldn't always be like that. We should be striving to get over the hump that we're in, or out of the situation that we're in, and enjoy it. And enjoy it, because it's short. It's short.
It is. It really is. That's why I had such a hard time when my first one left, because I knew it was going to be short. And now I'm about to launch my fourth. So it's kind of crazy. It goes way faster. And it's hard to believe. I know those of you listening who have little kids are like, sure, easy for you to say. Now your kids are older. But I felt the same way when my kids were little, and I would try to just stop and sort of like take in the chaos and think of the day when they'd all be gone and I'd be sad and lonely and missing them, and be like, okay, just soak it up right now, because that's the best we can do, because it does go quickly, and there's only so much we can do in the time. So what I'm hearing you say is, for those of you who are wanting to change, first of all, buy the book, Parent on Purpose. Second of all, sit down today and just start to ponder some of these things. Like, start to search yourself, start to look for, like, what does matter most to me? How, where am I in this parenting journey? And what have I appreciated that I've done so far? And then again, like you said, not being harsh on yourself, but just like, what needs some tweaking? What do I actually want to put into my life instead of just reacting? And then I loved your point about releasing the things that we don't need. And I feel like there's so many things we moms hold on to just because, I don't know, we're taught to do that, or society says we need it, or whatever it might be. Right. We just don't need all that baggage. Yeah. No. Especially the guilt.
At the end of every chapter, I have a section where I say it's pause, pivot, and plan. And that's what I'm saying. Like, just pause today, and what's working and what's not, what's not working. And then we pivot, right? You make a small pivot, and then you plan a way to do that. And we constantly have to do that. Yeah. I mean, it's not like you do it once. We just constantly do it. And it's a good thing, right? And we can feel when something isn't working. Yes. When we're very unhappy, or stressed, or overwhelmed, distracted, we know that. And so when we feel like that, I feel like that, right? Then I have to just stop, go for a walk. I mean, it doesn't need to be a big RV trip. It's just take a walk around the block and just think and pause, pivot, and plan for something different. And that's the best we can do.
That's right? So true. It's the best we can do. And we need to just focus on that we do our best and we forget the rest, right? Just let it go. Like you said, pause, pivot, and plan. I love that. That's so simple, but it's something that we can just keep in our mind to kind of I'm thinking even just in the moments when we are about to overreact or have a breakdown or whatever, just to stop, pause, so how can I pivot and change how I'm feeling, or change what I'm doing, or, and then in the bigger picture as well too, and then make a plan for something better. Yeah. On purpose.
On purpose.
I love it. Thank you so much, Amy. It's been so fun to talk to you.
I know.
Learn from all your wisdom. And everybody, I have the book right here. So Parent on Purpose. It's so pretty. I love it. And you can go and get that. And you can also go visit Amy at amycarney.com to learn more about the book. And your blog is amycarney.com, parentonpurpose.com, anything like that. You can find her all over. But be sure to connect with Amy and check out her blog and her book, and you guys can start to figure out your purposeful parenting plan. I love all the P's, right? And get started today. And I really appreciate, I want to emphasize what you said last too, that it is not too late. Because yes, I hear that so many times from moms, it's just, my kids are too old, or I'm a grandma now, or they're married. And it isn't ever too late, because your parenting journey never really ends. I mean, yes, it's different than when they were little, but you always have some kind of purpose as a parent. So you can always figure that out and always make improvements, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I love that. Okay. Thanks, Amy, everybody. Yeah. Be sure to check out Amy. And until next time, continue to grow through motherhood with us here on Motherhood Radio. It's a lot better to do it together as we do each week here. So we will see you next time. Everybody have a good one.